Hello everyone. The next important international organization is the World Bank, and as we know that we are going to cover the World Bank again in this WWT series, which is the What, Why and Tell Me More series, so that you could understand, retain and recall everything related to the World Bank easily and to make you learn the facts which are not that easily remembered or which are not easy to remember. If you haven't watched the previous video, do watch the previous video of International Monetary Fund in which I have discussed everything related to the International Monetary Fund, the SDRs, the quotas, how the SDRs are calculated, how the quotas are calculated, what role does MIMF play in the world economy. These are all discussed by me in the previous video. In this video, I am going to cover the World Bank and the 5 organizations which are under the World Bank. So let's begin and see what exactly is World Bank. So World Bank was created in 1945 after the Bretton Woods Conference. What is the purpose of establishing this World Bank? So that an institution could be established at an international level that provides loan to the developing countries for their capital programs. So the basic purpose of World Bank is for providing loans. As the name suggests, it is the bank and it provides loan to the developing countries for the capital program. The headquarters of World Bank are situated in Washington, D.C., United States. IMF also has its headquarters situated in Washington, D.C., United States. The president of World Bank as of September 2018 is Jim Yong Kim. With the Sustainable Development Goal, the SDG 2030, the two ambitious goals of World Bank are to push extreme poverty to no more than 3% by 2030 and to promote the shared prosperity and greater equity in the developing world. So these are the two main or two ambitious goals of World Bank which they believe to cover or which they believe to achieve by 2030. Now let's look at why was World Bank created or what was the purpose of establishing a World Bank. So the 1944 Bretton Woods Conference established the World Bank and its loans helped the European countries to rebuild after World War II. As we are aware about the Second World War, which has caused so much destruction in the economy, so to rebuild the economy or rebuild the European countries, World Bank provided loans to these countries, and due to this, a first multilateral development bank was established. So the basic purpose of establishing World Bank at the time of Second World War was to help the European countries and bring up or to come up with the idea of the multilateral development bank at the international level. It was funded through the sale of world bonds and the first loans were given to the France and the European countries. Apart from this, there are 5 organizations which comes under the World Bank Group. So World Bank Group is the umbrella organization under which these 5 organizations work. The first one is the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development and the second one is the International Development Association. These two make up the World Bank. So these 5 organizations come up under the World Bank Group, but the IBRD, which is the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and International Development Association IDA make up the World Bank. The third organization is the International Financial Corporation. The fourth one is the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, MIGA, and the fifth one is the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes. One important point to note over here is India is part of these 4 organizations, the IBRD, IDA, IFC and MIGA, but it is not the part of International Center for Settlement and of Investment Disputes. So India is part of these 4 organizations, but it is not the part of the ICSID. We would be discussing these 5 organizations in detail, but let's first look what are the reports being published by the World Bank. So the World Bank publishes the report, the Global Economic Prospects. The second one is the Ease of Doing Business. The third one is the World Development Report. Next is the India Development Update. The next one is the Universal Health Coverage Index. So these are some of the indexes or the reports which are being published by the World Bank. Let's look at these 5 organizations now. The first one is the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. As the name suggests, it is a bank and it is the world's largest development bank. It provides the financial products and policy advice to help its member countries to reduce poverty and extend the benefits of sustainable growth to all their people. It actually supports the World Bank Group's mission by providing loans, guarantees, risk management products, advisory services. So these are all the roles which are being played by the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. It was established in the year 1944. As I mentioned in the previous video of IMF, most of the organizations are being established at the time of the Second World War due to the demand in the economy, or due to the demand of the countries to stabilize the economy of the world. Also, the destruction which is being caused by the Second World War should not get repeated in the future. The headquarters of IBRD are situated in Washington, DC, United States, and currently IBRD has 189 as its member countries. Why was International Bank for Reconstruction and Development established? What was the purpose behind coming up with this concept of International Bank for Reconstruction and Development? So both the IBRD and the IMF were established by the delegates at the Bretton Woods Conference in 1944, and it became operational in 1946. The original mission of establishing IBRD was to provide financing for the reconstruction efforts of war-torn European nations following World War II. As I just mentioned, that the destructions which were caused by the World War I and World War II were so high that the countries do not want to get the repercussions, or they do not want to face the repercussions in the future again. So following the reconstruction of Europe, the bank's mandate has transitioned to eradicating poverty around the world. So earlier it was established with the mission of financing the European nations, but later it was transition to eradicating poverty around the world. Apart from this, IBRD and IDA, the International Development Association, which I would be discussing as the next topic. Development Association work closely with all the institutions of the World Bank Group, the 5 organizations under the World Bank Group, and the public and the private sectors in the developing countries to reduce poverty and build shared prosperity. So these are some of the major objectives of the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, to reduce poverty and build shared prosperity. Moving on to the next organization, which is the International Development Association. It is again the part of the World Bank that helps world's poorest countries. The important point to note here is world's poorest countries. So International Development Association work closely with these world's poorest countries so that these poorest countries could develop and compete with the economy of the world. They want to reduce the poverty by providing credits. Now, what are these credits? So, credit stands for the loans or the grant for the programs that boost the economic growth and reduce the inequalities and improve the people living condition in the poorest or the world's poorest countries. The International Development Association was established in the year 1960, and its headquarters are situated in Washington, DC, United States. Currently, International Development Association has 173 countries as its member countries. Again, what is the purpose behind establishing an International Development Association when there was already a bank, which is the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, which was established at the time of the Second World War? We know that the International Development Association works with the poorest countries. So they believe in providing these sources of assistance for these world's 75 poorest countries, out of which 39 are in Africa, and is the single largest source of donor fund for basic social services in these countries. Or we could say that these countries are so poor that IDA, which is the International Development Association, is the single largest source of donor for the or the fund provider for these countries. As IBRD was focusing on more of the European countries and the countries which were destructed during the Second World War, so there was a need to establish an organization which would just focus on these 75, or which would just focus on the poorest countries of the world and provide a change or boost the economic growth of these countries. The resources from the IDA bring positive change to the 1.3 billion people, huge amount of people who live in the IDA countries. Apart from this, the International Development Association lends money on concessional terms. Now, what is this concessional term? As these countries are very poor, so they provide the credits or the loan with a very low interest rate, or sometimes it is zero interest charge, and the repayments are stretched over 30 to 38 years. As these countries are so poor, so it would not be easy for them to repay the loan, so the loan repayment period has been extended, or the loan repayment period is too high, which is 30 to 38 years, including 5 to 10-year grace period. So they charge low interest rate or sometimes zero interest on the loans which they provide, and the repayment period is 30 years to 38 years, and which is extendable up to 5 to 10 grace period. Apart from this, IDA also provides grants to the countries which are at the risk of debt distress. Now, what is the meaning of debt distress? So, debt distress refers to the securities of the government or the company which has either defaulted or is under the bankruptcy protection, or is under the distress and moving towards the bankruptcy situations in the near future. So suppose these countries are being provided loan from some other organization, and after the completion of the repayment period they are not able to repay the loan. So it becomes a debt distress for these countries. So IDA also provides the grants to these countries which are at the risk of debt distress. Next important organization is the International Financial Corporation, which is the largest global development institution, and it was established in the year 1956. Again, the headquarters of International Financial Corporations are situated in Washington DC, which is United States of America. And currently, International Financial Corporation has 184 member countries. What is the purpose of coming up with the International Financial Corporation? Why International Financial Corporation was formed? So it was founded on the bold idea that the private sector is essential to the development. So first we will look IBRD, which focused on removing poverty from the world, or they focused more on the European countries at the time of the establishment. The second one is the IDA, which is the International Development Association, which primarily and mainly focuses on the poorest countries of the world. The next is the International Financial Corporation, which solely focus on the private sector. So IFC raises virtually all funds for lending activities through the issuance of debt obligations in international capital markets, and it is the only multilateral source of debt and equity financing for the private sector with the global reach. So the private sector which have the global reach, or which have the reach around the world, the international financial corporations help these private sectors in the development. The borrowings are diversified by country, currency, source and maturity in order to provide the flexibility and cost effectiveness. So this is the role played by the International Financial Corporation, which also focuses on the private sector development. The next one is the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency. Now what exactly is this Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency? So the MIGA provides the political risk insurance and the credit enhancement for cross-border private sector investors and lenders. So when there are two countries which are trading, there are always some risk involved in the trading. Suppose one of those could be the political risk. So the MIGA provides the political risk insurance and the credit enhancements for the cross-border private sectors and investors. It aims to promote the foreign direct investment into developing countries, to support economic growth and to reduce poverty. These are some of the important factors which work for the improvement of the people life. So it does this by providing the political risk insurance. As I just mentioned, it provides the political risk insurance, or the guarantee against the certain non-commercial risks to the cross-border investments, as well as by providing the dispute resolution services. So apart from providing the guarantee to the investors, it provides the resolution or the dispute resolution services. It was established in the year 1988 and it has its headquarters in Washington DC, United States. Apart from this, it has 181 member countries. Now coming up to the point, why was the MIGA established? So what was the purpose? As I just mentioned that there are always some risk involved while we are trading with the other countries. So the MIGA was established as an effort to complement existing sources of non-commercial risk insurance for the investments in the developing countries. So there was a lack of the existing sources of non-commercial risk insurance for these investments in the developing countries. Therefore MIGA, which is the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, was established to combat with these non-commercial risks. Now there are various risks which are being insured by the MEGA. The first one is the currency invertibility and transfer restriction. So what kind of risk is this? So what kind of risks are being covered under the MEGA insurance? So MEGA can help the investors and the lenders deal with these risks by insuring against the losses which are relating to the first one is the currency invertibility and the transfer restrictions. So what kind of protection is this? So they protect against the losses which arise from an inability to legally convert. Mind the word legally convert local currency into hard currency. So this is the risk related to the currency invertibility and transfer restriction. The next is the expropriation, which is the protection against the losses arising from the certain government actions that may reduce ownership of the insured investment. The next is the war, terrorism and the civil disturbance. So the protection against the loss from the damage to or the disappearance of the tangible assets or the which are caused by the political acts of the war or the civil disturbances. These are covered under the war, terrorism and civil disturbance. Next is the breach of contract, which provide the protection against losses arising from the government's breach of the contract. Next is the non-honoring of financial obligation. So they provide coverage for the credit enhancements in transactions which involve the sovereign and the sub-sovereign entities. So this is for the credit enhancements. So to protect the lender against the losses resulting from a failure to make a payment when due under an unconditional financial payment obligation or the guarantee is being covered under the non-honoring of financial obligation. So the MEGA helps the investors by insuring against the losses which are arising out of these conditions. Moving on to the last organization of the World Bank Group, which is the International Center for the Settlement of Investment Disputes. As I mentioned that India is not the part of the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes. As the name suggests, it has been established to provide facilities for the conciliation and arbitration of international investment disputes. So it was established for the legal dispute resolution and conciliation between the international investors. It was established in the year 1966. Again, its headquarters are established in Washington DC, and it has currently 154 member countries. So what is the purpose of coming up with this dispute settlement organization? So there were several attempts which are made to create a framework so that they could protect the international investments, but these efforts just revealed the conflicting views on how to provide compensation for the expropriation of foreign direct investment. So thus in 1961, the General Council of the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development developed the idea for this multilateral agreement on a process for resolving the individual investments disputes. Rather than focusing just on the expropriation of foreign direct investments, they focus more on the resolving of individual investment disputes and thus the investment disputes on case by case basis. So thus it was decided to come up with an organization which could resolve these issues on individual basis. So it is an international autonomous multilateral specialized institution to encourage the international flow of investment and mitigate non-commercial risks. So this is all for the World Bank Group. I have covered the 5 organizations which comes under the World Bank Group. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel Anuj Jindal. It would be great if you just share these videos with your friends and people who are preparing for the government competitive exam. These information would definitely help them to prepare for the examination. Do come up with the feedback in the comment section below, and we have a YouTube community as well. You can join there and get the latest updates and announcements. Please feel free to press the bell icon over here, the red bell icon, so that you receive the notification each time a video is being posted on YouTube. It is absolutely free. You do not need to worry about the charges. You just need to click on the subscribe button and the bell icon. Thank you for watching the video.